Man, I never thought a few days without the girls would be so boring.
You are the most boring, depressing SOB I have ever met, and that's coming from me. I'm out of here.
Wait! Existential dread, come back! Wait a minute. Existential dread. The pondering of one's existence and the meaning thereof. Megaman X is next on the list!
Ah, yes. Coming out in the States in January of 1994, Megaman X is a game that virtually needs no introduction. Added a breath of fresh life into the platforming shooter. Without further ado, let's get to it. It is the year 21XX. While trying to find a fossil record, Dr. Kane, a human scientist, has uncovered a capsule with a robot from the past, Megaman X. The capsule contained a warning message from Dr. Light, his creator. X's design interested Kane, and he analyzed Dr. Light's notes. Months later, Kane was able to create robots similar to X called Reploids, and they began to be mass-produced around the world, for unknown reasons. Some Reploids began to act strange and attacked humans, being labeled as Mavericks. To counter any possible threat, the Maverick Hunters were formed. Sigma, an advanced Reploid, was assigned to be their leader. X also became a member of Maverick Hunter. Time passes, and Maverick Hunters are able to keep the peace, but one day Sigma himself becomes a Maverick, being joined by other Maverick Hunters to start a war against humanity. Although X was by nature a pacifist, he had to do something, so he joined with the new leader of Maverick Hunter, Zero, to stop the ambitions of Sigma and the Mavericks. Well, that was awful careless of old Dr. Light to just leave X laying around like that now, wasn't it? Could have been anybody that could have found him in the future. Hell, for all we know, it could have been Wily that would have found him in the future. But, I digress. Onward to this, the most iconic of highway scenes. One thing that always kind of bothered me about the Mega Man X series, that I was glad to see was kind of remedied in the Mega Man Z series, is we've got all these mechanoloids and Reploids, and I guess by technical definition, X is a robot master, and so is Zero. We don't see but one human, and you only see a human in 2 games. So you really have very little comparison to go off of. As an interesting little side note, a local laser tag joint actually uses the highway theme from Mega Man X in one of their arenas. It's pretty cool. Or it was pretty cool. I don't actually know if they're still in business anymore. Ah, yes, the wall jump and wall slide. Nary has movement in Mega Man games ever seen so big of a drastic increase as that. With perhaps the possible exception of fully three-dimensional movement in a few titles. But two of those are in an entirely different spectrum. That is to say, entirely different types of game. You know, I wonder why it is that whenever this car drops, suddenly its speed drastically reduces. Like, I know it's already beat to shit, but it's kind of just, I guess, maybe a nice little touch of detail that being so badly damaged whenever it dropped, that was enough to kind of really screw the forward momentum. Ah, yes. This, the unwinnable fight. Well, I won't bore you all for too long with delaying the inevitable. Just submit to this totally not Boba Fett inspired, definitely inspired from somebody from Mad Max character. Nary a scene more influenced my childhood than this. Zero, my favorite Mega Man character. My favorite video game character overall. As if you couldn't already tell from the Zero iconography plastered over every platform that I'm active on. And though my hair is not quite so grandly long as his yet, we are working on it. One little tiny note of detail here is, back in the first Mega Man X game, and I think actually in the third Mega Man X game as well, Zero's eyes were green instead of the blue that you see in most of the further forward games. And X's eyes are... Let's see if... I can't remember if he's... Nah, it goes out. X's eyes are blue and Zero's are green, which around the time of Mega Man X4, maybe 3, kind of reversed. Anyway, onward to our first Maverick boss. Good old Chill Penguin. As I'm sure many of you, probably all of you, watching this would already know, Chill Penguin Stage is the home of the only upgrade in this game that you don't have a choice to get or not. It is plastered so directly in your way, there is no way to avoid getting it, or at least certainly no way to avoid getting it that I am aware. If there is, I'm sure it exploits some kind of bug in the code. This will also, by the way, not be the last time we speak of bugs in the code of this game. But I'm getting ahead of myself. The amount of level detail they were able to add, or rather I should say level complexity that they were able to add, by giving you the verticality of wall jumping and clinging is just astounding. This would be that upgrade I was talking about. You know, it's a bit pretentious of Dr. Light to say that he would be upgraded beyond anything the world has ever known at this point, when Light has been dead for 100 years! You know, it's actually thanks to this marathon that I learned that Mega Man X actually came out before Mega Man 7 for the SNES. I had always thought these two had been released at roughly the same time, and that they had just kind of decided to carry on with the Mega Man X style spriting as opposed to the larger, more cartoony Mega Man 7, which, in my opinion, was not at all unpleasant to look at. But, no, they hadn't even finished the NES games yet. They still had one NES game left to go. Bye! Ah, right, Armor, we hardly knew ye, and yet we already have to ditch. I will not, by the way, be taking this game directly in boss weakness order, as the Mega Man X games started the trend of defeating one boss, changing certain aspects in the levels of others. And sometimes it might be more beneficial to go to an enemy who may not be weak to the powers you have, but whose stage has just been made exponentially less hazardous. The boss fights were made even more dynamic than the levels, in my opinion, with the, the addition of the verticality of movement. As before, getting trapped in a corner and contact damage horde was significantly greater of a threat, which is not to say that it's not a threat now, it was just a worse one. Now we can kind of get some air and then vastly increase the length of our jump. And so we put this bird on ice. And the first Maverick has been retired. Actually going to move on to... Yes, I think we'll go ahead and give Flame Mammoth a shot. You can see there's a little bit of ice here on the ground. Normally, when first you enter this stage, this area right here is damaging lava, which has been frozen over by our defeat of Chill Penguin. Now, while this was patched in some of the later versions of the game, these things that are dropping these monster heads, you can actually get up on top of the stage here. That's patched out of some of the other versions. And normally you would drop down here, but you can actually glitch the game by coming over the top here into a way you're not supposed to. This is normally a sub-tank. As you can tell, it has been horribly mutated by the fact that its sprites have not been loaded yet. The background is horribly messed up as well. Now, we're actually not going to go ahead and go that way. I just wanted to show you that. You'll also, if I'm lucky, get to find out what's in here. But that's going to be a long shot. You see, that connects to down here. And this is one hell of a jump. Here's the hoping, ladies and gentlemen. Come on. Ah, nope, that's it. Unfortunately, those blocks don't respawn. So you get exactly one chance, if all you have is the dash boots, to try to break that open. This game also is the first time that you actually kind of start out squishier than the original Mega Man, because you have a much shorter health bar that can be instead upgraded. Sure, it's progression, but it's progression by the beginning being regressed. Ow. Damn it, what happened to your projectile disappearing off the top of the stage? And what's a Mega Man game without Mets? Mega Man Legends. Now, speaking of that glitch we had seen earlier, if you were to actually come over here, because there's an invisible wall right around here that you'd have to jump over, but that is doable. If you were to try to scroll the screen down, like so, you would actually just fall off the screen and die. I won't deny, I was gonna try again, but I already know there's no point. We'll just have to come back to that later. Ow! Ah, the dash. Since we're not prone during our mobility option now, we can actually jump. Which, for those well-trained enough to be able to time their jump at the end of their dash, can almost double, if not longer if you're going off of a plane of elevation, the length of your speed boost per button press. Never have been able to figure out whatever those are in those jars in the background. They kind of look like mechanical squid heads. This boss is actually one of two that has two weaknesses, though I have neither at the moment. The first would be Storm Eagle's Storm Tornado, which just simply does more damage to him than normal, as you'd expect. But Boomer Quagger's Rolling Boomerang, I think it's called? If you hit him with it enough times, you can actually destroy his trunk, and he can't throw out those little oil splotches anymore, which can be lit on fire by that buster that he has on his hand. Not that that happens all that often. Alright, well that's 2 done, ladies and gentlemen, so we'll see you on the other side.